Welcome to the Rabbi's Message. This is a message regarding the weekly Torah portion that is read in synagogues throughout the world. The Torah portion for this week is Parshat Chayei Sarah. Chayei Sarah means the life of Sarah. Sarah, the wife of Abraham, known as the matriarch of the Jewish people, passes away in the opening of this week's Torah portion. She's 127 years old. And the highlights of this week's Torah portion discusses after the passing of Sarah, Abraham purchases the Ma'arat HaMachpelah, which is the famous cave known as the tomb of the patriarchs and the matriarchs. And he pays a hefty dollar for it. And we're going to discuss in a moment what was that dialogue and discussion all about. But we also find how Abraham sends his loyal servant Eliezer to find a proper wife for his beloved son Isaac. And Abraham, after that, after finding Rebekah, and she's coming home, and they get married, Abraham remarries Hagar, who was the maidservant of Sarah. And Abraham has more children. In this week's Torah portion, Abraham passes away, and it concludes with analyzing and listing Ishmael's descendants, child of Abraham and Hagar, Ishmael and his descendants. What I want to focus on for a moment is an interesting episode that takes place in this week's Torah portion. We have the king at that time was known as Ephron. And Abraham approaches Ephron and says that my wife passed away and I'm looking for a proper burial. Till this very day, just so you should know, if you go to the city of Hebron, south of Jerusalem, the Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the tomb of our forefathers, still exists till this very day. And he approaches this individual, Ephron, and he says, I need a lot of land. I need to be able to bury my wife. And he turns to me and says, what are you worried about? Here, take this piece of land and go ahead and bury the individual that's deceased, your wife Sarah. And the verse goes on to describe how Abraham bows, and he speaks to Ephron and he says as follows: the only way I will take this land from you is if I purchase it. He said, how much do you want for this land? So he says, listen to me. What is this piece of land worth? 400 shekels of silver between friends like me and you. Forget about the money. Just take this land and bury your deceased. And Abraham listens to Ephron, and Abraham tells Ephron as follows. He says, the 400 shekels of silver in standard currency, I want to make sure I give it to you. And please accept it. The question that I have is, why this interesting dialogue? Why this discussion that Abraham, his wife passed away, he wants to bury his wife, he needs a piece of land, he's given a gift. Why can't he just take the gift and say, thank you, let me bury my wife there? Why is it that he gets into this whole discussion? He says, I want to pay for this land. Not only do I want to pay for it, I want to pay for it with 400 silver shekels, which was way more than the value of the land was. What's the logic here? And I think also the question is, if you were given something for free, don't you just take it and say thank you? Why do we find this interesting dialogue that Abraham returns and says, oh no, Thank you for the gift, Ephron, but that's not what I want. I want to make sure that this land is purchased by me. You know, when you think about it in a certain sense, what's interesting is Abraham was planning. Abraham had a vision, and he had a concern. You know, they say there's no good deed that goes without being paid. There's no free lunch in another term. We do favors, we receive gifts, but we all know there's no such thing as really a free gift. Abraham was concerned that if the land that he would bury his wife in, which ultimately, as I mentioned, it's called Me'orat HaMachpelah, the tomb, the cave of Machpelah literally means doubled. And our commentaries say, why is it called such a peculiar name? And they explain because there were multitudes of couples buried there. Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah, and hence the idea that this double, in fact, till this very day, if you ever visited the area in the city of Hebron, you will see that there are certain parts, and they say this is the area where Abraham and Sarah were buried. This is the area where Isaac and Rebekah were buried. This is the area where Jacob and Leah was buried. And tradition tells us as well that Adam and Eve were buried there. Abraham understood there is no such thing as a free lunch. In order to be certain that many years from now, there will never be a moment in history that people will say, what right do you have to that land? Or they would say to you, we gave it to you as a gift, but things have changed. The economy is down. You know, when it comes to charity, you have people that are very charitable. The minute their portfolio doesn't look as comfortable, it doesn't look as solid, the first thing they cut is charity. The first things they say, I can't afford it. The vacations, the cars, other basic luxuries, that's the last thing they want to give up. When they're giving up that, then they're really going through a challenging moment. But the first thing that usually goes, and naturally so, is the charity. And the reason is because most people believe that charity is not a sense of obligation, but charity is a sense of gesture. It's my kindness. It's the things that I've acquired through the course of life. I worked hard. I have toiled. It's my wisdom. It's my energy. It's my labor that's engaged, invested, involved. Now when I go ahead and I give charity, I'm giving of something that belongs to me. Maimonides talks about this in great length, as many other commentators. And they explain that the concept of charity is not a gesture of goodness. Wow, I'm a charitable person. You should give me a couple of nice pats on the back. A solid guy, an upright community member, a giver, a philanthropist. But they describe and they explain that charity is an obligation. It's an obligation that God gifts to the human being to see, can they deal with temptation and still do what's right? Can they deal with the concept of that what they've acquired is theirs, but it doesn't mean 100%, it means 90%. And tithing, 10% of that must be distributed at their wish to their causes. That's where a person does have choice. Who you want to give it to. But the 10% that needs to be given, there is no choice. But yet we find that many times when we deal with individuals that are going through economical changes, the first thing, if If a person tithes, that means you make $100,000, $10,000 needs to be given to charity. You make $200,000, $20,000 a year needs to be given away to charity. You make $50,000 a year, $5,000 needs to be given to charity. You have people that say, you kidding me? There's no way I'm going to give $10,000 for my $100,000. I can't afford that. No way. Impossible. If I had $1 million, I could even see myself giving away $100,000. It's a test that God says. Let me see if the person is able to understand responsibility. Let me see if they understand what it means to be given something and realize that it's not fully theirs. They are the messenger. They are the grantor. They are the individual that's granted the ability to give that measurement away. Abraham realized that, wait a second, if I take a gift, there's going to come a time when people are going to say, Ephron, he was a wealthy man, he was a king, now we're going through economical challenges. It's not yours anymore. We wanted to, but come on. You never paid for it anyway. All these years you got it for free. Abraham said, oh no, that's not the message that I want to leave. And that's not the message for life, in understanding how to make sure that there'll always be a place that his ancestors, Sarah, Rebecca's, Leah's, Adam, Eve, all these individuals, their ancestors, will be able to come and communicate at a very physical area each and every day of their life. The Ma'orat HaMachpelah. And in that area, they will be able to beseech and request blessings, guidance, inspiration. Abraham said, no way am I going to take this land for free. But what I will do, I will pay top dollar. More than it's ever worth in this period of time. So years to come, people won't say, why? How did you do it? Why spend so much money? People will be hush and they'll say, it's his. It belongs to him. The Holy Zohar teaches us a profound concept in relationship to getting something for free. And it says that things that are free come from a negative force. Everything that is connected with your true destiny is connected with effort. But anything that has that negative force tries to derail you with countless free offers. It entices you. Gimmicks. How many times you get emails? Super low discount. Free. Almost free. Super giveaways. And people get excited and they start searching and pressing and hoping that maybe this is that email, that it's going to transform their vacation experience. It's not so. The world is created to toil, to work, efforts, investment, engage, hustle. That's what life is about. Abraham acquired the land and the cave of Machpelah, and he wanted to pay a full price. He wanted to teach his descendants that what it means to be a leader, what it means to make sure that you're growing in the proper manner, it takes dedication. It takes energy. It takes effort. It's all about focus. It doesn't happen overnight. You know, from a spiritual perspective, we say that life, the quality of life, the concept of life, the fulfillment of what we do through the course of our life, it's not too long, it's not too short. If you let a single day or a week, let alone a month, to pass without fulfilling purpose, without fulfilling an obligation of giving back, it's not just a loss for you personally, but it's a loss for the universe. We're put here for a purpose, and we're put here to do something on a positive note. We go through life many times saying, not today. I'll do it, but not today. Why should I do it today? I can do it tomorrow. I'll have more strength. What people don't realize is that about Abraham, it says, the verse says, Va'avraham zakein ba bayamim. And Abraham was old, but still immersed in the daily life. And God blessed Abraham with everything. What does that mean? That Abraham didn't waste any time in the moments of life. Every hour, every moment was accounted for, was responded, was inspired, was with a mission and purpose. It had unique direction. It wasn't fluff. It wasn't, how can I chill out today? It was, how can I make a difference? How can I inspire and contribute to the success of life? That's what it means. Va'avraham, and Abraham was zakein bayamim. He was old but still immersed in life. He didn't push that retirement button and say, I'm done. Let me chill. The worst thing a person can do, in my opinion, is to say, I'm retired. You want to change careers, you want to change hobbies, you want to change interests, that's fine. But you got to be in growing stage. You can't be in bowing out. Bowing out means that a person says, I've built until here. Now I'm sort of just backing off slowly, relaxing, coming to a halt. I know it's all going to be over one day. Let me start it now. That's not called living. That's called escaping life. That's called not realizing the potential of why you're here. The greatness of Abraham. And this week's Torah portion says he lived to 175 years old. Every day, every moment, as the opening of this week's Torah portion describes Sarah's life. Even though we talk about her passing, we use the term life. The name of the Torah portion is Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. Abraham and Sarah taught mankind a profound and unique message. It says that Sarah was 127 years when she passed away. And each time the verse describes 100 years, 20 years, 7 years. And the commentators ask, why? Why not just say 127? Why 100 years and 20 years and 7 years? And they describe that the 100 years, when she was 100 years old, she was like 20. She acted like 20. She looked like 20. When she was 20, she was vibrant like 7. There was a chayei, there was a life to Sarah. There was a life to Abraham. There was excitement. There was meaning. There was purpose. There was direction. Every moment of their life was fulfilled, and they were saying, how am I going to contribute to society? Until the moment of Isaac being born, there was chaos, the uncertainty. Who will carry the flame? All the hard work, all the energy. When the God said to Abraham and Sarah, I will bless you with a descendant like Isaac, Isaac brought joy. And that's what Isaac means, a laughter, happiness. It's not a laughter of wildness, of partying, but it's a laughter of fulfillment. All these years that they've worked, they've educated, they've committed, they've inspired thousands. They realized that you need to have another generation to educate, inspire, and teach that to. If you can teach this message to Isaac, then to Jacob, then generations later to Moses, and through all the matriarchs and patriarchs of the Jewish people, till this very generation, if we can teach this important message of quality, of realizing that every moment of life is precious. Every moment of life needs to be engaged and be inspired, and we have to give back. And we realize that there is nothing free because the things that are free don't last. Don't last. Maybe for us they do, but not in certainty for the next generation. That's what this week's Torah portion gives us, that strength and that ability to live with the life of Sarah, live with the life of Abraham, and realize how in our days, in our life, we can all do the same thing. You're listening to the Rabbi's Message. This is Rabbi Elazar Bogomilsky bringing you the weekly Torah portion.